Shiv's the founder of an award-winning investment company, Lifestyle Property People, which is a service that provides a hands-free approach to building property portfolios. But I think it's best that you introduce yourself. So welcome, Shiv.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that's exactly what we do. Is we've set up a company that helps people in London to buy houses, investment houses in Leeds, and we also have a couple of other businesses as well. One of them that does development projects, property development projects up in Leeds as well, and another business that loans funds out to property developers. So all around the property space is what we do.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess like the first question I have for you is, there's a peculiar way around this question because it's quite a powerful question that I heard. Have you heard of Viktor Frankl?
Yeah.
He wrote the book The Man's Search for Meaning, and he was a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor. And he asked his patients a question: why do you not commit suicide? AKA, what's your purpose for living?
Yeah.
So what is your purpose for living?
I think for me, I mean, the question for me is like, what's the purpose of life? And I think the whole point for me is to grow and learn. I always say to grow and learn so that you can help other people to grow and learn. I mean, ultimately, I think we're here all together having this experience, and the whole point is to have the experience, any experience, by the way. One of the tips I wanted to share with you later on is that it doesn't matter what experience you have. It's all just about having the experience. And in going through that experience, it's growing and learning how to experience it better, how to be more self-aware about what you're doing and how you're impacting other people, so that you can then understand yourself better and help the next generation to understand themselves and to grow and learn themselves.
Okay. Yeah, so your kind of why is it all about growing yourself so that eventually you get to a stage where you're at the top, so you can look down and give back to the people who are trying to get up to there.
Yeah, and I think that you don't need to be at the top to help people that are below you. Yeah, you know, just being, if I was at level 2, I could help somebody that was at level 1. If I was at level 10, I could help everybody from level 9 below.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I talk about that with my book club, that some people are just 3 books ahead or 3 experiences ahead of us, and those people can help us with a particular problem that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
and I don't think that I'm, that far ahead of where you guys are. But it's just having been through those levels, I'm at a different level now, and that's why I can impart some knowledge on this call.
Yeah. And I guess I've had a taste of that, and I've picked your brain a couple of times over the phone, and I realised that obviously you've got into property. I've been reading up on the Property People website, and I wanted to ask you about property, because I am interested in property as well as running my web design and digital marketing agency and the book club and everything. So I'm sure a lot of people watching today are here for that knowledge as well. But if you were to go back to that stage when you were just getting into property, so like the question really is, how did you get into property and when did you get into property? And if you were to go back to that stage where the moment when you kind of figured it out and made your first investment, what was that like? What did you learn?
Yeah, so I got into property in 2014. I got into property more from a need perspective rather than a want perspective. So I was definitely, I was in an uncomfortable position where I needed to do something about it. And property was the logical solution for me. And one of the things that I learned was, in hindsight, people always say to me, oh, that was quite a brave thing that you did. You went all the way up to Leeds and you set yourself up in Leeds and you bought these houses and whatnot. And in hindsight now, I look back on that thinking it was a brave thing. But at the time, it was just the thing that I had to do. I was driven a lot by whatever was driving me at that time. And it was not about, there's 2 things that drive people. It's either the fear of the thing behind them, or it's the trying to get to the thing in front of you. And for me, it was fear that was driving me. So I was fearful of where I didn't want to be. And so at
Yeah.
that time, it was just the steps that I had to take, and I didn't think about it, and I just did it. And I think your next question about and if you had to go back to that time,
Yeah.
what would it be like? I think it was just chaos. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know why we were doing it. There were pieces of a puzzle, but we didn't know what the puzzle made up. And I think that now looking back on it, the puzzle is clear, the roadmap is clear, but at the time you're just doing everything, running around like a headless chicken, and you don't really know how it's going to connect. And one of my mentors once said to me that it will all come together in the end. And they also said to me that it will all come together very quickly. So for a long time, you think it's all going wrong, and you don't know what's going on and all that kind of stuff. And then right at the very end, kind of you click your fingers and it's all there and it's all come
Right.
together and it's all worked out.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I think I was in a same position when I first started my business. That it was more a sort of, I've got to do something. I've got to make a choice. And what's it going to be? Go back into employment, like just get another job, or is it time to start my business now? And I've started from a similar area of fear-based, that I've got to just get money in, and I've got to pay the bills, and then grow. Then my passion for business grew at that stage. So I totally relate to that starting stage
Yeah.
where it's you pick a niche or an industry, throw yourself head first into it, and put the pieces together. So like what you're saying is, it doesn't need to make sense at the beginning, as long as you're passionate and you have a goal maybe quite far in front of you. But what, from the sounds of it, maybe you didn't have such a big goal. It was more kind of the drive from underneath rather than the drive from ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So I didn't have a goal. What I knew that I had to do was one, I had to do something, and two, I needed to get some money in.
Yeah.
And so I think that's exactly the point. I didn't have the goal. I just knew I had to take the first step.
Yeah.
So if you imagine a winding ladder or a winding staircase, I could see a little bit the first three steps, and I knew I had to take the first one. Then I knew I had to take the second one. By the time I got to the second one, I could see the next two steps.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always been like that. I think there are, we've talked about this, Ben, before, about different personality types.
Yes.
And I think you're the type of personality that you can potentially see the end of the ladder, and you can see where you want to go to.
Yeah.
For me, it's very different, and I
Right.
can't often see the end. What I can see is what I have to do in the next three steps. And as I mentioned to you on the phone as well, I am not great at seeing the end, but I'm very good at executing the next three steps.
Right. That's just blowing my mind, actually. What my realization about that is, it makes a lot of sense why you said to me before that I need the opposite of me, because that's the only way my brain focuses, is the top of the steps, or 5 steps ahead of everyone else that no one else can see, and almost confuses people, but it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, I was going, my next question, but you kind of answered that, was, so does that ever change where you don't know what's around what's the fourth step? Is it always 3 steps ahead? But I guess that comes down to your genius, your unique abilities of how you act. Yeah.
I think it definitely does change from time to time, and I think certainly over time. So initially you might be driven by fear, but eventually when you get out of the fear, i.e., you're in a comfortable position and all that stuff, you then start to be driven by the nicer things in life, and so now you're aiming for something, and so I think over time it probably flips over.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a balance between, on one side, your genius, and the other side, where you are in your business life.
Yeah, I never caught that last bit, but I get what you're saying. You're driven by fear or desire, and once you get out of scarcity and fear, the sort of foundational area, and you get above that and feel comfortable, you then can you've got time to set goals and be driven by them instead of by fear, and that's a good place to get to, because you can start actually going where you want to go rather than moving away from where you don't want to go or don't want to be.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that all of those stages are relevant and they're all required. So at the beginning stages, you do need, there's a really good saying that says you need to have a really good why. You need to have a good why about why you're doing what you're doing.
Yes.
And the reason why that's true, I think Steve Jobs said something like that. The reason why that's true is because it's going to get tough. It's going to get really tough. And it's the most tough right at the very beginning. And in order for you to overcome that toughness and do what seems illogical at the time, you need to have that why to drive you. Mm-hmm. Another way of saying that, again, one of my mentors says this, that the flywheel, so there's a flywheel in motion, but to start the flywheel off, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of courage, and you just need to get it going. Once it's going, it's very easy to continue. And it's kind of very similar to my business at the moment, and I'm sure everyone's business, that when you first start getting clients on board, it's a difficult process. You tens of meetings potentially don't really go anywhere. But once the flywheel is in motion, hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. You broke up a wee bit.
Yeah, so once the flywheel is in motion with your...
Oops. It's just pausing on your end a wee bit. I can still hear everything.
Hello?
Yes, I'm still here.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, Ben?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying that it takes a long time, for example, to get the flywheel in motion. And in your business, when you're trying to get clients, for example, you've got to go and do lots of meetings and have lots of unsuccessful meetings. But after a year of doing it or 2 years of doing it, there's already a lot of goodwill built up. So people know who you are, and the flywheel is now in motion, and you don't have to try so hard to get the clients. And that's certainly what we're finding right now. The sell is a lot easier. The clients come to us rather than us having to go and find clients. And it does get easier. And of course, the point is that it gets easier, but you have new challenges.
Yes.
So at every level, there's new challenges to go through. And whilst the sales gets easier, you know how to make money. It's then potentially about how to keep the money, how to deliver, how to get the right team in place. They're all different challenges that come at different stages.
Yeah. I'm recognizing that process that I'm in right now as well. So new challenges of trying to get to the next level, and just coming up with so many new problems. I've got the basics foundation, not foundations, but I've got the basics kind of feels like they're in place. They're in control, but there's a few things when I'm trying to move to the next level. There's a few things I don't have a clue. It feels like you're saying back to the start, putting the jigsaw back together again. Yeah,
and I think as well, I think remember that what you're not trying to get to the end. The purpose of what you're doing right now, the purpose of running your business is not to try and get to the end. The purpose is to live through the journey. It's a really different mindset you need to get to. If you're trying to get to the end, what happens is at the end you die. That's what life is. You run to the end and then you die at the end. And what we're trying to do is live our years as we want to live them, and enjoy them, and enjoy the process of growing your business and building the teams. And what that means is, in practice, is that things are going to go wrong every single day. Every day things are going to go wrong, and it's just about how you react to them. And I know that sounds very cliched, you've heard that before, but really it's a case of expect things to go wrong, because things are going to go wrong, and enjoy them. Because if everything went right all the time, what would be the point of doing this? It's because things go wrong that you can enjoy the times when things go right.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think I said just recently that you it's like the sun and the moon. You need the dark to appreciate, like when you get sunrise again. Without one, you don't have the other. So that's a really good realization, I guess. From like, you're not just aiming for the end. You're living through it and really appreciating the challenges that. It's difficult. It's easier said than done to appreciate the challenges as they happen when you're living in that challenging state. But it's so true what you've just said, that we must appreciate the whole process, because you look back on those challenges and you do appreciate them. So how, like, do you have any techniques on how to appreciate them right in the moment? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, sorry about that. Didn't quite catch it.
Okay. I agree. We must appreciate the challenges and live in the process, but it's easier said than done to enjoy the challenge or appreciate the challenges. Do you have any techniques that you use that helps you to appreciate that in the moment? Because in the future, looking back, you can kind of appreciate all those challenges because it's made you who you are. But in the moment, that might be a point where the breaking point where people might quit or pivot or do something different.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, I think the point is that in the moment, what you need to do is, first of all, appreciate that this is not just your challenge. That 100 people have been through this challenge, thousands of people have been through this challenge before you. So I'll give you an example. At one time, a couple of years ago, somebody fell over at one of our properties, and it was a property that we were buying for a client. And as a result of that, they decided to sue us. And the reason why they sued us is because, you know, people are opportunistic and there was money to be made.
Right.
And of course, the first time you get sued, you think, oh my God, what am I going to do about this? And what you need to do is realize that every challenge that you get is not sent here to destroy you, it's sent here to test you, to get you to the next level. So as a result of that, if you surround yourself with people that have already been there and done that and had those challenges, you can then just say to them, what do I do?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what well, to be honest, at the beginning, we didn't do that. Eventually, we did do that.
Yeah.
And the answer was, don't worry about it. You know, it's okay. You know, give it to a solicitor and let them deal with it.
Yeah.
And of course, just to be clear, we did worry about it. And we did, you know, try lots of things to try and not to worry about it. But certainly when somebody said, don't worry about it, we've been through it, it's always going to, you know, it'll be all right. It did put us to ease a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think it's all about surrounding yourself with people that have been there and done that, because obviously they can give you some reassurance and give you some advice about how to deal with those situations. Yeah.
And how do you surround yourself with people who have been there and done that?
I think that's a really good question. It's a very simple question, really. I mean, how do you get into networks? You Google them, don't you? So if you Google people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, then you'll find those networks. I mean, and they don't have to be specifically the same thing that you're doing. They could be, you know, business networks, for example. And, you know, if you live far away from anything, there could be online networks. There's lots and lots of resources out there. I mean, we've never been...
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. We got cut off, so I'm just going to get Shiv back on here. Do you remember where you got cut off? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Let's refresh that question then.
So the next question, I guess it goes back to what we were discussing about wealth dynamics. So brief summary for people who haven't done any of the Genius U, Roger Hamilton wealth dynamics. Long story short, there's a thing called a wealth lighthouse, and there's about 7 different stages. People start off at the bottom stage, foundational stage, and slowly move up to different levels. So you have to figure out what kind of level you are in experience in your niche in your business and you need to find mentors at the levels above you to get to the next level. Then it's a sort of 4-dimensional way where each of us have our own genius, where, like, I'm a creator, Shiv's a doer, Shiv's brother is actually a connector who falls to the side, and then there's the opposite, who's the details person. So we all have different personality types and how we approach sort of teamwork. And Shiv's been explaining that to me and sharing some book recommendations with me, Roger Hamilton's books for one, and the Wealth Dynamics Test, which I recommend everyone takes. But one of the things I noticed about you, Shiv, is it looks like you've looked into that a lot, and I wanted to. You kind of figured me out instantly. You knew I was a creator, and I took the test and it said I was a creator, and that was quite interesting because I think there's about about 8 different types you can be.
8.
And you picked the one that you were spotting with me. So you seem to be able to figure people out very fast. Is that from looking into this wealth dynamics testing? And how do you use this in your lifestyle property people business? Do you use it? And do each of the, I think you've got 4 directors or 4 top team members. Do you each have a different personality types, opposite personality types from each other?
Yeah, excellent question. So the first question, if you asked me 4 questions there, hold on. The first question was, So in terms of how I managed to figure you out and whether that's wealth dynamics, that is definitely a bit of reading into wealth dynamics. But I think that what that is probably, I'm a salesperson. I love doing sales. And as a result of that, I need to figure people out. I need to figure out what kind of person they are, and then become malleable to be more like them, because people buy from people that they like, and people tend to like people that are either the same as them or the complete opposite of them, but not people that are similar. People don't like necessarily people that are similar. So I think that's probably how I figured it out. I mean, I've always taken a keen interest in understanding people, so I think that's probably where that came from. In terms of how we use it in our business, so and you're totally right. So there was 4 top directors in our business. There's now only 2 of them. But you'll see, actually, let me see if I can take off my badge here. This is our company badge there. Don't know if you can see that. And you see that there's 4 different sides to it, because there was 4 of us that started the business. There's the north and the south arrows that go up and down. But the reason why we did 4 different sides to it, as well as there being 4 different people, is because there was 4 different personalities and 4 different energies. So we had the creator type energy, the dynamo energy. We had a connector energy, so a blaze energy. We had a task-based energy, so a doing energy, as you mentioned earlier. And we had a detail energy as well. And it was one person in each of those spaces that fulfilled that role better than anybody else. And just to caveat all of this, Ben, most people are not just one energy, or not just one quadrant. Most people are a balanced person and a good mix of people. And as a result of that, if I say you're a creator, it doesn't mean that you are just a creator. It just means that your dominant style is a creator. And it's also, it doesn't also imply, let's say, for example, you have ideas as a creator. It doesn't imply that you can't do anything because you're not a doer. I mean, you obviously are a doer. You've obviously done well in your business already. So I think from that perspective, it's a case of this is what you're in flow doing. This is what you love doing. And the other behaviors that you have are learned behaviors. So if you're very good at detail, for example, then that could be something that you've learned to do. If you're very good at people, it's something that you've learned to do because you have to, because you live in society. But it's not something that you naturally love doing as a creator.
That makes a lot of sense, yeah. Because you can get carried away with these kind of definitions of you are this, and then embody that, and then forget everything, like start to let go of too much. And that's what was going to bring me on to my next question. By losing the other 2 members of the top team, have you noticed a large difference? Are you in process of replacing them urgently, or have you been able to mold yourself into their roles quite easily?
Yeah, I think the answer is a bit of both. So on one hand, we've had to hire some other people in the team, and they've come in to take some of those roles. On the other hand, exactly what you said is that I've found that I've been taking more of that role. And some of it is because I've had to, but some of it is because I've wanted to as well. So let's say, for example, you're a creator and I'm a tempo, which is a trader is the actual name for it. If you're a creator and I'm a trader, if you step out, there's now a vacuum in that space. So I need to step into that role. And not just I need to, I will probably naturally become more of a creator because there's nobody else filling that role. It's just like if you're in a room full of people and you get set a
Hmm.
task to do, there'll be the people who naturally get up and take charge of the situation. But if you took those people out of the room, there would be other people who would also get up and take charge, but they're not naturally, leaders. They're not, or they're not naturally charge takers, if you like. But they would take charge because they're being
Yeah.
called upon and because there is a vacuum
Right.
for that energy. So yeah, I think it's a bit of both. Is the
Yeah.
answer to the
Right.
question.
Okay. Yeah. There's a need, a needs must, and the person has to do it. It's either grow or die kind of thing. You either close the business down or fill that vacuum yourself.
Yeah, and remember, as I said to you earlier, like this is all a process. This is all an experience that we're going through. And whether it's a bad experience or a good experience, the point of life is not to just have good experiences, it's just to have experiences and grow through those experiences. I'm sure you're well aware that you grow only when you have challenges. You don't
Yeah.
grow when you have loads of great times followed
Yeah.
by great times. So if I say that the purpose of my life is to grow and learn so that I can help other people to grow and learn, that's only by going through
Yeah.
challenging times. Now, the thing that you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be going through challenging time after challenging time after challenging time because you just feel like you're in a hole and you're
Yeah.
not getting out of it. So what you want is you want a bit of a challenge and then a steady kind of bit where you enjoy being at the level that you're at, and then a bit more of a challenge and then
Right.
you enjoy
Yeah.
being at the level that you're at. And I know I was speaking to you about this earlier, and I know that you're in that space as well, where you've had a little bit of a challenge and then maybe you're kind of teetering off now and you think, oh, it's time for another
Yeah.
challenge now. And that's probably because you've been at a constant level for a little bit and it's now
Yeah.
time to what we call
Yeah.
a level up and go to the next level. But remember, to get to the next level, there is
Yeah.
going to be
Yeah.
challenges to get there. That's
Yeah.
the whole point.
So we're not. Yeah, I totally. So like I'm coming to the end of my, like I was calling it complacency, so you could call it that, but you're coming to the end of your cycle of kind of fun, and if you're someone ambitious like you and I, we're gonna have the itch to go to the next level and naturally want to do
Yeah.
that. But by knowing, just understanding, if you're like us, that you're going to have some challenges, so you realize that you're facing problems by doing that. But I guess I like challenges because I like to solve problems, and I'd probably be the same as you, where I always want to. My mission is just to continuously grow, so I would never stop, regardless of what hurdle comes up in front of me. And I guess a lot of the people watching this that follow my stuff are very similar in that way, that they constantly want to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Um, so I did have another question about going back to like where people you've learned from, who not who, but where did you get your knowledge outside of? So I guess your experience has created a lot of the knowledge, but where and how did you develop your knowledge in, say, property and business in itself?
Yeah, I think I did a lot of books and courses and things like that at the beginning. I think unlike some people who just do course after course after course and spend thousands of pounds doing that, as I mentioned, I'm good at implementing. And because I knew that, I would take a course and
Yep.
I would implement, and then I would take a course and
Right.
I would implement. And I think that's the way we did it. And then, like I said, I then eventually found that there's only so much you can get from the course, and a lot of the information that you get is by keeping in touch with the people from the course. Going back to the idea of having a mastermind or having a group that you can get in touch with. I mean, I learn. People say, "Oh, Facebook is really bad for you." I'm on a lot of Facebook groups, property groups, and I follow those things all the time because I mean, and this is the thing, I'm interested by property. I'm interested in what's going on in the market because I want to grow and get to the next level. And as a result of that, I won't just follow Game of Thrones posts. I don't
Yep.
watch Game of Thrones. I would follow
Yep.
property-based posts because I enjoy learning about that. Um, and then, yeah, same thing in terms of business as well. It's just about being uh, um, networked with the right kind of people. So you don't want to just network, for example, for you with just Dynamo people, with just creators, because you're all going to have the same issue. You want to network with all the other people who have the challenge that you can solve. So you can almost help each other out, because you can say, well, you have the challenge that I can solve. I have the challenge that
Yeah.
you can solve. How can we work together? And that's definitely what you're trying to get to.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that's why I ended up speaking to you through VR, who VR's different from me, and he knew you. He connected you to me, or me to you, and that's how it starts. You find someone slightly different from you, but you're very rarely going to be in a space or connect with the same energy as someone opposite from you. So usually you find that person indirectly.
Yeah, I mean, Veer is a
And
good
that, yeah,
connector. That's what he is. He's very good. And as a result of that, I mean, he finds people for me to
yeah,
sell to all the time. And it's they're, I think, partly buying because they
yes,
trust him.
okay,
And
wow,
so and you know, this is the whole point about a business that you have, is they trust him, he's recommended me, and as a result of that, they partially
yeah,
trust me. All I have to do is not screw it up. So now I'm not trying to sell to them. I'm just trying to not like
yeah,
screw it up in that sense. So I think that it's probably not necessarily just connecting with people that are around you. Don't take that square so literally. It's connecting with whoever you connect with, and over time finding out, well, how can they help you? I think more importantly as well is doing business with people that you like. You're much more likely to uh, do business with, hang out with, learn from people that you like and people that you like being around. Next week, I'm going on a week's retreat with some property entrepreneurs, and it's because I like them. And we'll go and have a great time on a boat, and we'll stay in an all-inclusive place, and
yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
fantastic. And guess what? I'll probably learn from them as well whilst I'm there, because they're all at great levels in their businesses, all experiencing different challenges, different successes. So by going there, I'll probably learn a lot of information, a lot of stuff from them about growing my own business. But it's because I like those people that are
yeah,
there.
and that almost connects a lot of the things you've said. Like going back to that original kind of speech from Steve Jobs, where he says that like business is really hard, and if you have the people surrounding you as well that you enjoy spending time with, that'll help that the times when it's tough, challenge wise in the business. If you're surrounded by people who you actually see as a friend as well as who you can grow from, I think that's a perfect balance.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't see, and this is not to say this is right. This is just the way that I do it. I don't see a line between my work stuff and my personal stuff. I don't have a work-life balance, because it's all the same for me. It's my
Yeah,
life, and I really enjoy doing it. So I'm getting married soon, and I looked down the list of people that I've invited to join me at my wedding, and a lot of the people are
yeah,
property people, because that's
yeah,
who I hang around with. That's who I enjoy being with. That's who I enjoy talking with, etc. So I think we all get along with people that we like. We all get along with people that we have something in common with. And if we can spend more time with those people, they
yeah,
will rub off on us. You know, they always say that you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Spend time with people that you like and that you
yeah,
want to be like, and you'll
yeah.
probably become like them.
It's 100% true. Um, and I've seen that myself doing that. That I was at a barbecue the other week, and we are playing Cash Flow, the Cash Flow game by Rich Dad. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
a long time ago, I was not doing that. I'd be in a pub drinking, and that wasn't for me. And I realized that a very quite early on, rather than waiting until I became 30 and changing my path. That I realized that wasn't for me for a long time. So 5, 6 years forward, I'm now spending my time at a barbecue playing a game about financial
The game,
literacy.
yeah.
So yeah, it's I'm naturally being around people who I admire, who I can learn from, but who I have fun with as well and do business with.
Yeah, but and the challenge that someone in your position as a dynamo has is, don't compare yourself to those people. It's very easy for dynamos to compare themselves to other people and think that they're
Right.
better or worse. And I think it's really important that you realize that everybody here is on
Yeah.
their own journey. Everybody, like, there's nobody that's ahead of you or behind you. They're all running the same
Yeah.
race that you're running. but they're just running in different directions. So somebody wants to do better in, in their family life, and somebody wants to do better in their work life, and somebody wants to do better in their health and fitness, and somebody wants to become, vegan and go and do really well in that sense. So everybody's running their own race. There's nobody to compare against. And I think that's where it comes down to. It's about learning and growing so you can do better and help other people who are in a similar position to, who are in a similar race to you. And you can help those people. So I think that's really what it comes down to, is not comparing yourself in those circumstances.
Yeah, I definitely have.
Because you're doing very well in the race that you're running. I'm doing very well in the race that I'm running. And the fact of the matter is that everybody is doing very well in the race that they're running. They just don't know it yet because they're comparing themselves to somebody else. They think they're running a different race, and they're not.
Yeah, I think I weeded that out of my mind. It wasn't that long ago, let's say. It was probably only 3 years ago, but I definitely battled with that kind of competitive side of me, which is a good thing. You can use that as a positive thing, but I've learned that it's all about creating. It's about creating for myself and against competition in that sense, because that type of competition can be quite negative and not really help you in a lot of ways.
And you're right, like the competition is good sometimes. I love competing, and I'm happy. And people say, "Oh, compete with yourself." I'm happy to compete with myself. I'm happy to compete with other people.
Gets the best out of you.
I think you've got, but you've got to realize the point where you're like, hold on a second, I'm now envious of that person. That's the negative side of it. And going back to what you were saying earlier, likewise, I realized really early on that I was never going to watch Game of Thrones. I was never going to watch Lost. I was never going to watch Prison Break. These are not the things that I enjoy doing, because I watched a video by Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sure you've seen it. And he says, you've got 24 hours in your day, you sleep 6 hours, you go to work for X number of hours, and you've got all this other time left over. What are you doing with this other time? There was another video that said you've got 30,000 days before you die. That takes you up to the age of about 80. So you've got 30,000 days before you die. And once you take away your school days and your retirement days and your eating days and your sleeping days, then actually there's not that much time left for you to do what you want to do, for you to live your life. So I think, there's sacrifices that people have to make. Eventually they become your life and you don't realize that they're sacrifices. At the time, I didn't feel like I sacrificed, watching whatever it was, Game of Thrones for the sake of argument. But I don't enjoy that stuff anymore. It feels like a waste of time.
I know exactly what you mean. At the beginning of the process, when you realize what you really want and what you kind of want to ease away from, it feels like sacrifice, but then it slowly, you realize that it was never your thing anyway.
Ben?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, I can see your lips moving, but nothing. Can you talk again?
You said something about at the beginning of the process.
At the beginning of kind of me, for example, spending more time in my business. It did feel like a lot of the things I used to do where I was sacrificing them in replacement for the business. But as I started to do more business and enjoy the process of the business, it no longer feels like I'm sacrificing anything. This is the way I live, and I add fun just naturally comes into, or I naturally add fun into what I do in my own unique way, because everyone has their own unique fun. And that's what I realized, that like you're talking about comparison, we compare what they call fun, or what's like society calls fun, with what we are doing, and then we think, are we not fun people? But I've realized over the process, and probably you've realized this as well, that do your fun, and then it flows that way.
Well, I think Gary Vee says, do you.
Exactly.
There is no, it's not like do your fun and do your work. Do you, like, what do you want to do? Do that thing. And that's the thing that's going to make you most successful. And something that I've learned certainly over the last year, but if not before then as well, is you're not, you're racing against yourself. And so make sure you're doing the thing that you want to do. If you want to, if you want to work one day and not work for 4 days and you can afford to do that, then do that. If you actually love doing it and you want to make a gazillion pounds, do that. You know, just do what it is that you want to do. And I think go back to your question about what about in the early days, because in the early days you don't always have those kind of choices to make. You do have to just graft it out. And realize that, you know, you're still young. I mean, even at, as Gary Vee says, even at 30, 40, 50, you're still young. You've got loads of years in front of you. And as a result of that, graft it out, because you're here for the process and you're here for the learnings, but you only get the learnings by going through the challenges. So yeah, keep going, I think is the sentiment.
It's hard to, it can be hard where you have had, like, you're maybe at my age and you've maybe not achieved certain things that you wanted to achieve, and realize there's a long graft ahead. It can be hard to accept those things, but when you realize that you actually enjoy the process, it doesn't feel so hard from that perspective, that actually life is all about those challenges. And that's, like, I guess adopting that philosophy of life is what we need to do first before we continue to, rather than stay in our comfort zone. To constantly pushing ourselves out our comfort zone has almost got to be a lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, well, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, I agree with. How far you push yourself, absolutely, it's got to be a lifestyle. What you've got to realize is, whilst we're here building our businesses, life is happening. Like, this is life. There's no other life that happens. It's not like I'll build the business, I'll get to £1 million, and then I'll live my life. This is life. So create the life that you actually want to live. And I think I've got a few minutes and then we have to go, Ben. But a couple of, like, quick points that I wanted to make was, if you are people that are lower down in the wealth hierarchy and you think to yourself, I haven't got enough money, enough financial security, the first thing you need to do is reassess what your financial security is. So what are your expenses and what are your costs? How much can you reduce them? If you reduce them as much as you can, then you need to realize that actually the next step is to go and make money. And making money is not difficult. It's just hard to figure out. Once you've figured it out, it's the same whether you make £1,000 a month or 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever it might be. And it's just about getting to the next level. And really, like, once you've made that kind of level, in the sense that once you're comfortable and you can cover all your expenses effortlessly, life becomes a lot better and a lot more fun and a lot easier, because you're not worrying about it every single month. You're living your life. And, you know, certainly if you're at a place where, you know, you don't have to think twice before spending. So someone says to me, do you want to go on holiday? I say, yeah. Because I know that, I mean, to all intents and purposes, the most expensive holiday they could have in mind for me is probably £5,000. And if it's somebody that I would want to go on holiday with, and, you know, it's going to be a good holiday, it would be, well, that's okay. I know the money's in the bank to be able to do that. So I think the point is, to get to that stage is a hard graft, but then from that stage, it's still hard, but it's really
it becomes your new foundation.
You have to get to the point.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's enjoyable at that stage to do what you're doing. And like you said, it becomes a new foundation. You then grow again, and then that becomes a new foundation, and going up and up and up. And not specifically in terms of finances, but in terms of your fulfillment out of what you're doing and how much you're enjoying it.
Okay. One last question, since I have a book club. Whoa.
Sure.
I just pulled that over. I'm
That's
glad
right.
we're still live. Let's see if I can turn this. Okay. Forget the last question. Actually, what's your favorite book?
Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Ben, sorry, what did you say?
I don't know what's happened here. It's confusing me. So, what's your favorite book?
What's my favorite book? I mean, this is not necessarily business related, but I really enjoy a book called Sapiens. It's a book by a guy whose name I can't pronounce, Yuval something or the other. It's a really good book. It's about the history of mankind. It's called A Brief History of Mankind, and it just takes you through from like the day humans came to the planet, like what's the evolution that's happened and how we got to where we are, and it helps you to understand the society that we live in right now, and maybe, you know, it takes you through kind of the simpler days of basically before agriculture, when people used to be hunter-gatherers, and people used to basically spend 3 hours a week going to find food, and then the rest of the time enjoy themselves. And we've now got to a society where we spend, you know, easily 40, 50, 60 hours a week working so that we can then impress other people and buy the things that we don't necessarily need. But it's a fantastic book. It takes you through the history of mankind.
It sounds really good.
Really like that one.
You would probably like The Story of Civilization by Will Durant, if you like that one. It's really deep. There's volumes and volumes, and I'm on volume 4, but it does the same. It goes way back to our Oriental heritage and goes forward. So I recommend that as well to you. It's really good, but it's very deep. But yeah, thanks for the recommendation. I've heard of that book many times, and I think it's time to read it soon.
It's a holiday read, I think, rather than it's like when you're on holiday and you want to chill out, you have a listen to that, it'll blow your mind. The other one as well, just again, novels, and I don't really usually read novels, but I've just been to India for the last, well, not now, but earlier this year for 4 or 5 months, and there was a book I read there called Shantaram. It's a really good novel. It's about a guy who escapes from prison in Australia and then flees to India, and it's all about his experiences in India, and it's a really, really gripping tale about all the things that you can expect in like the slums of India, in the prisons of India, and all that kind of stuff. So I know I'm not selling it very well, but it's a bestseller, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's called Shantaram.
Would you be able to write that in the comments on this post?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't know if I can pronounce or spell that. I don't know if you've frozen here.
I will do.
Okay. Okay. Right. Well, thanks for joining, Shiv. You've been excellent. I've learned a lot, and I'm sure everyone who joined us has learned a ton. And I really appreciate your time.
Great. And now I know how to do a Facebook Live with you. Hopefully next time will be a lot easier.
And don't do what I did and knock the cable, because now we're like tilting our heads. Okay. Cheers.
Excellent. All right, brilliant. Thanks so much. Cheers.